if you are ready to buy, you're going to get your best deals going after quick moving homes in new construction.
You see online every single day a video about the housing market is going to crash. We're in the next recession, but prices still stay the same. Prices still keep going up. There's no huge increases in unemployment. And that is odd to me because I feel like some people online with an agenda can portray the wrong message when it comes to different spaces. And today we're going to tell you what's up, what's really up with the real estate market in 2024, and what do we see. Now, I have my good friend with me, an entrepreneur, an investor, a real estate agent, and he really specializes in making people money any way they can. He does multifamilies, he does single properties, he does every different type of method with real estate. And my guy is going to fill us in on what is the market forecast for 2024 and what we are seeing. Obed, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Ellie. I really appreciate that intro. So today we're going to be talking about 2024 and what the forecast is. So I'm going to tell you straight. 2024 is definitely going to be a challenging time for a lot of people, especially the people who are looking for deals. If you've been sitting there waiting for interest rates to drop, that's going to happen, but it's not going to be as what everybody expected it to be, in the past. You're not going to see these 2-3% rates. Forget about it. You'll be able to find something in the low to mid 6% rate, starting like around mid 2024, going to the end of 2024.
So keep it straight with me. Is there going to be a housing market crash?
Market crash? I don't see it. Why? It comes down simply to supply and demand, right? Everyone wants a home in some shape or fashion. Either you want to buy a home to live in it, or you want to own a property to rent it out, right? That's the part of the American dream. It's something that everybody kind of grew up with, that you know about. You think about America, that's one of the key tenets. Supply is low. We have a couple things that we're dealing with, right? After the 2008 crash, a lot of people were scared to, like builders were hesitant to build. And now we're facing what's being termed like the lock-in effect. The people who have low interest rates don't really have much of an incentive to go ahead and sell their properties, right? It's like, bro, I have a 2% interest rate. I've already paid down a good 25, 30, 40% of my house. I'm going to sell it now. Prices have gone up since I've sold, and interest rates are higher. Where's the incentive for me to do this?
And so they're basically going to tap into a home equity line of credit before they'd give up that rate to sell their house.
Yeah, that's one of the opportunities there. Now, there are people who always have to sell, death, divorce, you have to move, jobs, things along those lines. Those are the things that are going to force people to move.
So we understand that life events happen, but when those life events do happen, will that be opportunities for the everyday person to get a home with houses being overpriced and at this supply being at all-time low?
There's going to be more opportunities, yes. Inventory, though, is still low. We're still dealing with historically low inventory levels, especially like here in the Tampa Bay MSA. MSA, the Metropolitan Statistical Area. So for Tampa, people always talk about Tampa, like the city of Tampa, you have Tampa, Clearwater, St. Pete, etc. Those are all part of the MSA. But here specifically, we saw a decrease in sales of 13 to 14% year over year, right? And the biggest reason behind that is there's lower inventory, high interest rates, high prices.
Okay. Now, I have been seeing for about the last 2 weeks that they're saying people are leaving Florida in drove. Inventory is skyrocketing. People still coming to Florida to buy homes.
Always. Florida's always been like a place to go to. Why is that a narrative? I don't understand. I don't know why. You look out, just drive around, you're going to see a lot of out-of-state license plates. New York, Illinois, California, Texas. I don't know what site people use, but there's a lot of sites. You could go to Redfin, you can go to Zillow, etc. website, and they'll show you the inflows versus outflows. There's U-Haul. U-Haul also does this as well, where they'll show you where people moving from and then where they're going, because they get that information. You go there like, hey, I'm about to get this U-Haul or whatever. Where am I starting from? Where am I leaving? They have that information, and they'll show that there is a net inflow into Florida.
If inventory is at all-time low and prices are above the normal, and everyone online is talking about the doom and gloom associated with Florida's housing market, what are some of the opportunities that we aren't seeing? What is the positive good news that's still allowing you to remain successful in the housing market in Florida?
All right, so we could definitely look at this in terms of like two buckets. You have investors, and then you have the people who are going to do owner-occupied. Owner-occupied, new construction has been a boom for people who are looking to owner-occupy a home, right? New construction, like the home builders are offering crazy incentives.
What type of incentives are we talking about?
So Some of the incentives I found, so like MI Homes has interest rates, if you go through their lender, in the mid 5%.
Oh, wow.
Right? So right now, as of this past week, late November 2023, interest rates are at 7.22. All right, so you're getting 2 points lower than the average person is getting. They're also offering $10, $20, $30,000 in flex cash. So that flex cash can be used towards your closing costs. It can be used towards upgrades on your house. It could be used towards buying down your interest rate. So you could go from that 5%, you might even get it even lower. So if you're looking for that, I need that 4% or whatever it is for me to make sense, you might want to take some time and look into like new construction.
That's great for letting me know, because I've never really heard about how flex cash can be used. Are these homes now fairly priced with the amount of incentives that are being offered in Florida? Or are you still taking some sort of risk in the softening market in 2024?
There's always going to be some risk, but long term, in terms of owning property, especially in a place like Florida that continues to appreciate, if you buy well, you buy in a good area, a stable area where people want to live, you'll be perfectly fine.
Now, what are some of the biggest concerns that you hear people saying about the housing market as far as it not being the right time to buy? And then what incentives do you see that outweigh their fears?
Two groups of people. The individuals who are always, it's not the right time to buy. And when you talk to them, they're always going to tell you, I wish I bought. And then there's the other group that are just not getting the right information. So either they're not actually prepared to buy, right? They don't have the necessary information. They don't understand the process. They don't have the right people on their side, or they're not. Their finances are not all the way ready yet, right? So if they're in that group, it's fine. Take your time and continue to to grow. But for the individuals who are ready financially and they're still waiting, a lot of times it really comes down to like overanalysis. Paralysis by analysis. And in that case where, they're taking in too much information, and that information that they're taking in is causing them to get fear. Especially if you're looking to owner occupy, it really comes down to you doing an analysis between what is it costing you now in the place that you're living versus what is it going to cost in the long run for you to own a property. So it's not just necessarily always looking at it as a month-to-month type thing. You have to take back and look at it at a 3, 5, 10, 15 year type deal.
And so you talked about the type of person that buys. And to your point, if someone bought in 2021, just pulled the trigger in 2021, they would be in a way better predicament than even with all the high rates and everything, if they wanted to sell, they would have made a lot of appreciation on their home. So what type of person do you see that actually comes in, walks in and buys? And what's the outcomes for them versus someone who sits on the sidelines and says now is never the right time? Especially in the Florida market.
Yeah. I mean, for the people who I'll talk to the part at the end first. Like the people who always sit on the sidelines are going to stay on the sidelines. They're always going to find a reason to stay on the sidelines. That's cool. It's home ownership or owning property is just not for you. That's cool, right? There's plenty of people who are financially able to buy a property, but they decide to rent because it makes more sense for them. And then there's the other ones who are just never going to buy, or they're going to dissuade other individuals to do it because either they don't see the benefits of owning homes, or they have some other agenda, right? So I'll just address that part. But for the individuals who do purchase properties and they are looking to get the benefits of home ownership, like what are they looking for? It really comes down to like what are their key tenets in life? Like what are the key things that they really care about? You want a place for your family to grow and live. You want to have something to hand down to your kids, next generation. Is the home that you're going to be purchasing in a better location than you're currently living in? Again, it also comes down to like the financial parts. So when the people who purchased 2021, 2020, 2019, et cetera, in the past, a lot of times you talk to them and you're like, what's one thing that you wish you would have did? I wish I would have bought more property.
Right. That's a big thing.
It's interesting. Now, there are some people who do have regrets when they purchase homes. A lot of the times it's because they just didn't get the right information. Someone put them in a bad position and they got stuck there. All right, it happens. It definitely happens. But for the most part, individuals who own homes tend to be strongly in the camp that they wish that they would have done more, or they would have done it sooner.
Basically, you're saying the Florida market is not dead. Now, another thing I see online is a lot of people online talking about, oh, HOAs for condo is going to bankrupt these condos. Massive insurers are leaving the city in states and droves, and housing, has affordability has gone up crazily. Or let's say your property tax, because someone who sold it to you when the house was assessed for $100,000, it's now worth $500,000, and that is also weighing into a lot of the fixed costs associated with the home. So how do you see that affecting home prices in the market?
I'm not going to hold you. Some of those things are definitely going to be headwinds to the market, especially here in Florida. One of the biggest ones is going to be with insurance. So insurance has definitely been a pain in the ass for a lot of people, right? A lot of the big insurance have been leaving, so people have been leaning on Citizens, which is the insurer of last resort in Florida, and the fact that their insurance counts have been doubling this year is a little concerning, but what's providing some kind of benefit now is that the state is understanding that this is something that's definitely concerning. So they're trying to get some more insurers in place. But high level, everything comes down to one point, and one thing I always stress with everyone I work with, or my friends, family, etc., when they're dealing with real estate: due diligence. Do your due diligence, right? And when you're running your numbers, whether you're purchasing your house with the mindset that you're going to own it and live in there, or you're purchasing it where you're going to own it and then move out and rent it out, or you're purchasing it as an investor, you have to make sure that you understand what your numbers are, right? There are going to be things that you're not going to have a concrete number on, but there are some things that you can get a pretty good guess on. So some of the things that you can do, you're looking at a property, you have to make sure that you have an insurance broker on your side that you can reach out to, like, hey, this is a property I'm looking at, I'm buying. Can you give me a quote on what this is going to cost? I just need a rough range. I don't need to know exactly what it's going to cost, but give me a pretty good, 80, 90% guesstimate on what this is going to cost. Taxes, you can go to your county appraiser's website. So for Pinellas, it's PCPAO, the Pinellas County Property Appraiser site. Every single county has a appraiser site. You go on there, you go to the taxes website, and they have what is going to be your tax estimator. So you're going to put your tax estimation based off of the purchase price of the home for the coming year. That also is going to give you a range of what your taxes are going to be. Not always going to fall within that range, and especially if you have homestead, if you're planning on living in a home, you're going to have homestead. Make sure you apply for that. Don't forget. That's going to help you to lower your costs. But again, like, there are tools out there to help you get your estimations for those.
And HOA, is that pretty much just self-explanatory? They'll tell you that right on the paperwork, or you've seen any changes in that as far as rising or not being what was stated in the initial talks?
Are HOA fees negotiable? Nah. Good luck with that. All right. I've never seen or heard of any situation where someone could come in and be like, yo, I want a lower HOA fee, right? Because what you're doing is you're trying to get the same thing that everybody else in the community is paying for. So instead of going to the HOA and saying, I want a discount on my HOA fees, which they're probably going to laugh at you or probably never going to respond to you, talk to the seller and say, hey, these HOA fees for this year is this much. I would like to get a seller concession, right? Give me a seller concession. So depending on if you're financing, there are limits to how much seller concession you can get, right? It's from 2 to, I think, 9%, depending on the loan type. But generally, it's going to be 3 to 6, right? So FHA, you can get up to 6% in terms of seller concessions. Conventional, you're about 3%. But that is going to depend on what your down payment is. It'll go up as your down payment increases. VA, if I remember correctly, is like 4%, right? But you can use...
What's that percentage? Like, when you're saying a seller concession being the max, like, do they give you that credit back? Do they lower the price by that much? What is a concession?
So a seller concession is essentially is money that comes back to you. So it's money that's going to go towards your closing costs. You can use it towards buying down your points on your interest rate. So a point is 1 point. So if it goes from 6 to 7%, that's a 1 point difference, right? So you can buy down your interest rate, or you could just have the seller themselves actually just pay for the HOA in advance, right? So there are different things that can be done to manage that, but it's not going to be long term. You're still going to have to make sure that you consider that cost in the long run. So it comes back to what I always mentioned before. It's going to be with your due diligence and then understanding what makes sense for you financially.
I understood.
Right.
So tell me, as far as the market today. Is it a buyer's market or a seller's market?
We are still in a seller's market. And there is a very simple metric that is used, and that's months of inventory. All right. So here specifically, I'm talking about the Tampa Bay MSA. We are in the mid 2 months of inventory. So how that is calculated is it's based off of how much properties are currently listed for sale, right? How many listings do we currently have active for sale? And then it's divided by the rolling 12 months of sales before, right? And so we are in the 2.5 months here in the Tampa Bay MSA. Anything under 5.5 months of inventory is a seller's market. Anything above that is a buyer's market.
It is a seller's market. Now, what's the validity of that 5.5 months? Maybe it's different in Tampa. And how was it before COVID versus how it is now with that months of inventory?
Before COVID, we're going to use 2019, the very year before that, we were at 3 months of inventory. During that crazy run where everybody was just buying everything and some of them don't even know what they bought or why they bought it, but they did, it was at 0.5 months. So that tells you how crazy of a time it was, how much of a seller's market it was. And I don't know if you guys heard of some of the stories, people were buying the house, to win the deal, they'll put an offer to purchase that house and the seller's next house, right? That's not necessarily something that happened here in the Tampa Bay market. It may or may have not happened, but that was going on nationally during that time frame. And that is very indicative of that, how hot that market is. And that metric still is a very good indicator of where demand is compared to what's available. Now, is it the greatest metric? No, because it's a lagging metric, meaning the information that comes from it already has occurred, right? So it's not going to predict what the future is, but you can use it to get a gauge of what's the temperature of the market that you're in the last couple months.
Now, but you're saying that it's almost half a month back from 2019. So is that going to put stress on the market out here because inventory is going back up to normal? And is that going to be able to depress prices? Because while it's not a buyer's market, it is around what was happening in 2019.
So 2.5 months is where we are right now. Strong seller's market. Inventory is still low, right? No matter what someone tells you, the inventory levels are not where they have been or where they should be in terms of the demand that we're facing. Now, until there is a plethora of homes that are brought onto the market, especially the biggest way is going to be with home builders. And a quick point on that, home builder sentiment has been dropping 4 months straight. And that sentiment number is just like, how comfortable do they feel about the forecast of the market in the future, right? If they're not comfortable, they're going to keep continuing to build. So that is a little bit of a metric that's kind of like, we might not have as much of those new homes coming onto the market as we would like, right? And the interest rates are still high. So we have low supply, or at least intentions of low supply coming, and the demand is still the same or a little bit higher than it's been. If anyone knows supply and demand, it should give you a good idea of that. Prices are going to at least stay where they are, or they're going to continue to rise in the near future.
Now, I do have a quick caveat. Let's talk about apartment complexes, because that can still put pressure on the market. Well, people still can't afford a home and the housing market is high, there's low inventory, they'll just stay in apartments. And maybe that will allow time for that excess inventory to come up and push it back into a buyer's market. What trends do you see in 2024 and currently on the impact of those new inventory for apartments coming online?
All right, so let's talk about the last piece first, about the apartments coming online. So yes, there's a lot more inventory in apartments, especially on the top end, the Class A, Class B properties that are coming on the market.
Class A, Class B, what's that?
So in real estate, you have different classes, right? The higher the class, the kind of like, you're in grade school, right? A is going to be the best, and then, B, C, D, and then we have the last one is war zones, right? So war zones, I think I don't need to really explain those. You could kind of picture what that would mean. Class A are going to be the areas that everybody would want to be in if money was no objective. Class B, neighborhoods and properties are, they have great amenities. They're just missing just a little bit to get to Class A, right? Class B and Class C tend to be more of like the working class type areas. Now, not necessarily, there's nothing that they're wrong or they're bad or anything along those lines. The locations may not be as premium the properties may just not be as premium. It may not have as much of the services and stuff like that in proximity to them. School districts may not be as great, right? So in terms of like the apartment complexes, et cetera, what we're seeing here specifically in the Tampa Bay market, again, I want to make sure that I'm addressing specifically the Tampa Bay market, is that we're getting a lot of luxury or properties in the Class A, Class B, right? So the people who can afford those, they have more options now, right? They can decide to live in very great properties for rent, don't have to worry about maintenance, everything. You know exactly what you're getting. You're getting one bill, right? Or maybe you're getting like a utility bill on the side or whatever it is, but nothing, nothing surprising. So yeah, they have the more flexibility in terms of what they want to do. The pressure that is causing is that it is forcing some of the other properties that were Class A, Class B, that don't have all those features anymore or amenities to have to lower their price. So that's been lowering the overall rent prices. So if you've been looking for a rental, especially if you were looking in the summer and you're comparing it to now, we're in December 2023, you're probably going to notice that, rent prices are a little lower than they were. In some places, they might be significantly lower than they were, right? So that math between purchasing a house and renting changes for a lot of people. It might make sense to rent longer, right? And that's a beautiful thing about housing and real estate, is that there's no right or wrong answer, right? It really comes down to what makes the most sense for you today and in the long run, right? So that's that piece. Now, how does that correlate and carry over into the housing market for homes, single family, multifamily, et cetera? How does that look? There's a little bit of correlation, but it's not so much going to be a significant impact in terms of prices, because at the end of the day, there's a difference between ownership and renting, right? So the desire for many people is still going to be owning homes, right? And there's still not sufficient single-family homes that are available for individuals to purchase. So what that is actually, I'm going to go to another point in a second, but what that's showing is that there's desire for single-family homes still high, townhomes still high, condos still high, right? It just may make it to be a sense where people take a little bit longer to decide to purchase. That's really what it's going to come down to, but the demand is still strong, right? And that kind of leads into some of the things that I've been noticing, is that single-family rentals are becoming a larger and larger topic in the market, right? Because investors, especially like the big companies, they know that people still want to be in a single-family home. So now they're creating communities of single-family rentals, right? Or it could be communities of townhouses that you can rent. And you still get that same feel and sense of ownership, or that the sense of having
your own place,
but not the cost for it, right? And then what's ultimately going to happen is that now you're living in this place, you know what it feels like. What's the next step that someone's likely to do after that? Buy, right? So that is they're just bridging that gap between what's traditionally has been, you're coming from like an apartment, et cetera, to purchasing a house. Now we're giving more and more optionality and making it easier for you to get into a house without you actually having to purchase it yet. But you will at some point. We know you will, right?
I see. They're extending the process, right? It's more, they have a different category now that more people can go into in between actually home ownership, and that's actually going to guide them into that eventual home ownership piece. But they have this portion where now they have a house that they're renting, but they can feel good about it and still save up their money to get a house.
Yep. Now, and it's actually a great situation for a lot of people who have never owned a home or before. Now you know what is it like, to have that type of space. Now, you have that type of space, you have that freedom, you're not sharing walls with anybody. How likely are you to go to a shared community type space afterwards, after you've been renting a single family home? It's going to be lower. You're going to want similar or better.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what they are expecting. That's what they're banking on. And that is a very robust area of the rental market right now.
So what you've all been waiting for is the 2024 housing market analysis. Well, tell me about the people who are still going to make money. Tell me about the investors and the people and the buyers who are still going to be able to make a good deal in 2024.
All right. So people who are going to make money are the people who've always been making money, right? Just first and foremost. If you know how to make money, you will find a way to make money continually, right? But what does that actually mean? So for investors, it's going to mean being a little bit more creative. interest rates have been high this entire, or the majority of this year. So if you've been able to navigate it, I think you should definitely be fine, because expectations that rates are going to drop in 2024, sometime in the summer, low to mid 6%. But overall, as an investor, you're going to have to be more creative. So what that looks like is, instead of just doing long-term rentals, you might have to mix in and do some medium-term rentals, or do a pad split, which is renting out by the room, right? You may have to do things where you are doing sober living, where instead of just renting out to specific, just the general population, you may be working with government entities, or et cetera, to rent out to specific people who may have no other means to live, right? So the great thing about investing is that you have the flexibility to do different type of strategies. So you just have to be able to really analyze your market and see what's going on. Essentially, kind of ride the coattail of whoever's the most successful in that area. Right?
I see. So now you say about buyers who will be good. What do those buyers look like who will be good?
All right. So for buyers, like someone who's going to own or occupy, there are going to be the individuals who have the ability to pay in cash. Right? You can pay in cash, you'll be fine, because then later on you'll wait for rates to drop, you refi, et cetera, get your money out, blah, blah, blah. That's a pretty clear, straightforward picture. The individuals who have the ability to pay large down payments also have the ability to put themselves in pretty great space, right? Because you're going to have enough equity in your property to deal and manage with whatever storms may or may not happen in the future. For the individuals who don't have a large down payment, right, you're going to have to go in a couple different paths. One, new construction is definitely showing its way to be a boom for a lot of people. Right? They're offering lower interest rates compared to the average interest rate if you use their lender. Again, they're offering flex cash, seller concessions, et cetera, to help you bridge that gap or lower your out-of-pocket costs. Right? They're actually, some of them are actually even cutting back on the purchase prices, right? They're rolling back the purchase price. So if you are ready to buy, you're going to get your best deals going after quick moving homes in new construction. At that time, the house is built. The builder is paying monthly the cost of maintaining that property. They're carrying that cost. They want to get it off of their books ASAP, right? So if you are ready, target those, right? You're going to get the best deal on those properties. Next thing is going to be value add properties. So value add properties are what they call like fixer uppers. You have to put some sweat equity in, but it doesn't always have to be a home that's like terrible or it's in, really bad shape. Find a home, maybe it might be a home that's a 2-1, but it has the potential to be a 2-2 or a 3-1, right? With just putting up a wall, adding a closet, putting a vent, putting some new floors down, some paint, etc. So find homes that have that ability for you to add value to them, right? If you have someone on your corner that has the eye to see those things, that's something you should definitely target. Now, if you're not willing to do new construction or you're not willing to do fixer uppers or value add properties, the next thing is going to be finding homes that are in areas that are up and coming. Now, there's a risk in that because they may be up and coming and they never come, right? So for people who've been living here or they're familiar with Tampa, Ybor has been one of those areas that's been up and coming for decades, right? Now, there are pockets in Ybor that
have arrived.
Yeah, they're arrived. And there's a pretty big project that's coming that should help push that even further. But, it's going to take some time. So if you are in that boat and you're trying to go in that path, you need to extend your purchase timeline significantly. And I say purchase timeline, I mean the time that you plan on holding and owning that property. All right. It used to be, 7 years was the average time that people lived in their homes. Then it started climbing to 9. You may need to think about maybe 12, 15 years, right? To make sure that you can weather the storm or be able to actually capture the progress that's being made in that community that you're trying to chase after.
I see.
And if not, if you're not doing new construction, you're not willing to do the fixer uppers, you're not willing to take a chance on the up and coming properties, then you have to go and do some things that a lot of people don't do, or things that, realtors and wholesalers, et cetera, will do. Go start knocking on doors in the neighborhoods that you really want to live in, right? Okay. And see if those individuals may be willing to sell to you. They might, if they have a lot of equity in the property or if they own it outright, they might be able to sell a carry, which means that the seller is essentially the lender. All right. So, I mean, those are some of the opportunities. I mean, there's plenty of ways to win in real estate. The biggest thing is really always going to come down to you're always taking a chance when you purchase a property, but the best way to put yourself in the ability to be successful is by taking a high level view of the property, the neighborhood, and the market that you're in, and then putting a plan in place. What makes sense for me, and then doing your due diligence. All right, you could buy a great property. You didn't do your due diligence. You find out that there's an issue, code violation, etc. You know, this ADU wasn't permitted properly. Oh yeah, it was a great neighborhood, right? Everyone told me it was nice. You know, I'm buying great, etc. I'm about to rent this out, and then you find out that it was illegal. It wasn't done properly, and then you know, you end up having to go back and redo that. So I know I went off a little bit with that little story there, but it goes back to making sure that you do your due diligence, right? And you really take some time to really understand what is it that you're trying to achieve. Now, that time to achieve does not mean you take your entire life to try to figure it out, right?
Forever.
Yeah. So that's something that's always going to be a case. The great thing is that now that interest rates are higher, people have a little bit more time to make a decision on each property that they're trying to go after. Before 2020, 2021, if you didn't put an offer in before the house was put to be sold, you lost it, right? It was a crazy time. So we're definitely at the point now where you have a little bit of time to be able to actually look at the property, identify some value add opportunities if that's the route you're trying to go. Or if you're going to do construction, negotiating on the purchase price, or getting more flex cash, or getting those structural upgrades, you know, those type of things. And then if you're going out into the community and you know, talking to some of the sellers, they might say no, but if you have that ability to go out and do that, go ahead and do it. You know, you have a little bit more time to breathe and make those decisions, but you don't have all the time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first, that people are still going to be making money in 2024. People are still moving to Florida, and the housing market is not going to crash. All you have to do is know your numbers, do some due diligence, and really now you have time to focus on what you want to get into, and you can still negotiate. Tell us, Obed, where can we find you?
All right, so I'm kind of a sloth. I'm a little behind on things, but I'm on LinkedIn, Obed Calixte, OBED CALIXTE. You can also find me on Facebook. I'm on YouTube, Obed Calixte RE. And if you actually want to get directly in touch with me, you can text me at 813-422-1987.
Well, you heard it here, folks. This is 30. This is the housing market in Tampa, Florida. Follow us for more videos. We got more heat coming on the way. We'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Peace.
Yes, sir.